Something is rising in the collective right now, and we can all feel it. There's a sense of a pressure, a heat. It's a frequency that refuses to stay buried. Sacred rage has awakened on a larger scale than we have ever seen before, and it is here to demand change. On a personal level, this momentum is guiding people to those moments in life when the surface just can't hold you anymore. When something this ancient rises in your chest, it is not to destroy you, though sometimes it feels like it. It's to call you back to yourself. This video is for both of those moments. For the personal descent, the remembering, for the fire you were never meant to extinguish, for the collective cracks forged in chaos. And we're seeing a lot of that right now, but there might be more behind the scenes. When you hear the word sacred rage, you may understandably be thinking about shadow work. Though that is valid, let's strip this back deeper to something that demands your attention. This is a profound opportunity on its own, when it is used correctly, of course. So today, join me as we dive into sacred rage and why I advocate to embrace it. Do not mistake this for daily frustrations and anger reactions. This is divine activation. Merry meet and welcome back. Or if this is your first time coming across my little occult corner of the internet, my name is Carly and this is the next video installment of my series Talking with the Witch on Awakened Power. In this episode, we are not reaching for the light. In fact, we are going deep within, into the places where your power has been waiting, misunderstood, silenced, shamed, very intentionally suppressed. This is a journey into sacred rage. This is not to be misunderstood with the chaos of unprocessed emotions and reactions, but instead we are talking about an ancient force that when properly rises is something that refuses not to be seen. It is impossible for sacred rage to remain silent or appear broken. In fact, let's lock in the difference between anger as a reaction and the sacred rage that I am talking about, so you know the difference in your own body by experience. And don't just think that I am advocating for you to Hulk out for the sake of it. Absolutely not. That is such a waste and a massive sign of emotional immaturity, whether conscious of it or not. We all know when you encounter someone that is being an asshat and they are just angry, or they may have just had an anger reaction. And I say reaction because to me, the word reaction and response are very, very different. One implies a conscious motion and the other is just instinctive. Now, I'm sure in a split second you are able to just quickly pick a person you have encountered that has had a moment of anger, an outburst, or someone who's just angry all the time and that has become part of their identity. People like this, or moments like this, when it is unjustified and it is a reaction, this anger that I'm talking about, on the receiving end in your own body, it will feel like a recoil, like a shutting down, like a want to retreat. There is something in you that just cringes. It wants out, doesn't like it, registers it as this is not for me. And that is normally when our fight, flight, or freeze or fawn response comes online. This is anger as a reaction. This is not what we are talking about today at all. Sacred rage can be compared to when you're listening to someone who is really, really passionate about a subject, something that could be a little bit controversial, or someone protesting for a cause, social, economical, something like that, or maybe just that really passionate heavy metal song that you love to throw on in the car and scream like no one's around. I may be drawing from experience a bit there. That feeling of like, yes, that empowerment, the sacred rage is what rises. It comes up through the body. It's coming from a place that is different to anger, where anger normally comes from the head. They say anger is an iceberg. There's always something beneath an iceberg, and someone's angry and we can bring that down, and it really comes to sadness or a boundary that maybe they never had in place and they don't have the emotional toolkit to express it, so they just project it out as anger. To me, as an occultist, a projected anger like that is just a wasted power source, and we're going to get into this a lot deeper, of course. When it comes from up here, and we all know this process when it feels like words come out before you've even thought of them, and it's really coming from the head, sometimes kind of between the head, chest, but mostly the head. It's a reaction. When you feel sacred anger, it is a rising, it's a stirring of the system, and it moves through your whole body. It is a very, very clear difference. So you think about that thing that you're really passionate about, gets you really fired up, may make you seem a little bit intense or angry to other people, but to you, it feels so right. That is sacred rage. Or when I say so right, maybe it just feels like something so time critical, important has to change. It's normally a bigger picture thinking as well, not so much a reaction because that driver just cut you off. That's not rage, that's reaction. So I want you to take a moment just to think about where you've had these two very distinct reactions and responses in your own life, and if you can't admit that from a personal perspective, at least you can find some examples around you, surely. So now we've cleared up the difference in between, let's dig a little bit deeper in this video. So I need to say now that rage is not the enemy. Rage is a messenger. Rage is the boundary that you never learned to voice. That may sound similar to what I was just talking about, but an anger reaction when it comes to a buildup of things like crossed boundaries often is a person's control drama. And we'll get into that another time. But when I'm talking about it in terms of a messenger, it is something that is bringing your attention to a core issue. So rage can be compared to the part of you who still knows your worth, even if you have forgotten it. Before we go any further, I want you to take a big, deep breath to really let your body soften. Because when we start talking about subjects like rage and anger, it can often fire up your nervous system in a sense of anticipation. It's trying to be ready. It's really important to be conscious of that, letting yourself soften as I progress through this video so that you're fully absorbing the message within. That might sound silly or obvious, but just go with me. And this is because what we are about to explore is not theory, it's memory. And you will see by the end of this video why this is both an opportunity and an intense power source for any occult work, which is obviously where I am the most passionate, but possibly not in the ways that you traditionally think about things like rage. So I guess I'm saying to be open, to soften and to be open. Let's continue to set the stage correctly for this piece. And when you're ready, I'm going to read a poem. So first, I want you to get comfy, and if you can, close your eyes and really just sink into that place where you can feel this in your bones. And then we're going to go deeper. Don't be surprised that if within this recital you experience spontaneous tears or emotional releases. This is natural. These words are not just a poem, they have been energized. They are a sonic key, and they are an unlocking sequence. After you have absorbed these words, by the end of this video, I also will leave you with extra energetic seeds disguised as reflection questions. And this is my real gift to you. If you use these genuinely as they are intended, it's going to unlock something within you that you possibly didn't realize you had access to. This is exciting stuff. So let's bust some more myths about something that is normally stigmatized and frowned upon, especially by those in the spiritual community. Before I begin this poem, I want you to hold one thing in your awareness and be gentle with yourself. Feel free to pause this video and write it down. Just leave this in the back of your mind. What if the only way out isn't up but in? This piece was born of dissent, but not the kind that you choose with clarity, the kind that chooses you. It was born from the ache of survival, by the silent scream that doesn't stop even when the pain has passed, and by the moment your name no longer fits the shape your life demands. Before you hear these words, I invite you once more to ask yourself, where have you been pulled beneath your own surface? What fragments have you buried, silenced, or burned up for the sake of keeping the peace? What if you met the part of you that waits in the deep? Would you recognize their rage as sacred? Would you remember what you came for? This is not a poem about healing. It is a poem about remembering. It is about the kind of power that is not earned but reclaimed, thread by thread and wound by wound, and with the help of the unseen. This is my story, but as a spiral, as a mirror, and as very much one shared by many. This is the spinner's hook. The surface could not hold me. The current did not sink me. The rage tide failed to break me. I spiraled into death voluntarily. I did not enter with a rod, nor patience, peace, or perfect poses. I did not come with bait. I came bleeding. A line spun from a scream that I had buried in my own abyss. I came torn, threadbare from lifetimes and brutal chapters that nearly took me out in a way a soul can die long before the body. My blood still bore the scent of the old ones who whispered in the ether with thunder. Something primal spun from the roar in my chest. Not burly, but memory. Not hope, but fury disguised as prayer. I cast myself into the dark without permission, without name, and the dark answered, not with echo, but with eyes, glowing eyes. The remnants of fire etched into my palms still, where the old gods touched me in silence, my permanent reminder of what was once whispered. There is more, so much more. The water did not ask why. It pulled ferociously, like it knew exactly what had fractured and where I'd left the pieces. It was a grave and a womb, a place where names go to rot, so something real can rise. And I went under. I let myself fall, unclenching and unspinning the lies I stitched into my own skin, like grief does when silence is all that you trust. Down there, I found her, adorned in everything I tried to hide, the one I'd buried, the one who held rage like a guarded relic, not like those of worldly treasures, the kind displayed in glass, but the one sealed in lead, volatile, sacred, and taken for granted until it detonates. She did not flinch. She opened her mouth, and the old language poured out, the kind that cracks mirrors and breaks bones. Something stirred then, not within me, but around me. The dark had not been empty. It had witnesses, old ones, ancient as root and rune, watching from the edges of the void, waiting for my signal to begin the rite. I listened, I wept, I bled copper into the spiral as the elementals came. Wind to stir the story, flame to cauterize the severed self, stone to give me spine again, and sea to baptize me, not as saint, but as sovereign. She looked at me as if I had kept her waiting, and I had. She met me with a statement that also posed as a question. How could you pretend I did not exist? But in the deep, she wasn't angry anymore. She was ready and ravenous. And when the spirits came, I watched them stitch me backwards and inwards until I was no longer trying to escape the dark, but remembering I was made of it. They reeled her in, slowly, spinning something sacred, birthing that which cannot be undone. Thread tightens truth. Knot by knot I remembered. Each turn of tension a remembering. Each new beginning starting with a wound made honest. I spun her shadow into shape, wove our madness into a map, and let her scream thread into anthem. And when we rose, I was not the same. I bought no trophy, no applause, only breath, only fire, and the memory of what it cost to come home to my name. They say you fish to feed, but I went to remember, and I came back whole, not because I was spared, but because I did not break. I pulled myself from my own abyss, and the catch wasn't prey. It was power, and the beginning wasn't a sunrise, but a descent lit from within. I did not leave the dark behind. I carry it, tender, watchful, and woven into my name. The thread is still spinning. I was not designed to fear where it leads, because I am the echo. The descent was not an end, but a beginning built in shadow. It became a doorway. When I walked out, I was forged and fanged. Crowned in ash, I rose, not cleansed, but complete. The darkness is my witness that lights my path, because I am the fire that darkness often drowns. What you just heard was a descent, a remembering, and a reclamation of the self that lives below the surface, the one who holds rage like a power item, not a flaw. This is where our work begins. Sacred rage is not the fire that burns your life down. It is the fire that lights your path back to your name. Most people are taught to fear their anger, to suppress it, to detach from it, to pretend it is not there. But suppression is not spirituality. It is bypassing. and an automatic subscription renewal to repeat the lessons you thought you were escaping from. Detachment is not mastery. Avoidance is not peace. Rage rises because something needs your attention. It is the body's most honest language. And when you learn to listen to it consciously, compassionately, and without shame, it becomes one of the most powerful forces you will ever work with, which, if you are an occultist like me, and not just a love and lighter, you are going to want to tune into it. Never waste a power source. So let's break down a few points that are really important to remember when it comes to assessing your sacred rage. Rage is a messenger, not a malfunction. Rage is not a sign that you are failing your spiritual path, but ignoring it and avoiding it is. Judging it very much could be, even if it's only a little trip up on the cobblestones of the spiritual path. That is inherently dismissing what this sacred messenger is here to show you. It is often a sign that something in your inner world has been violated, ignored, or abandoned. Rage says a boundary has been crossed, a wound has been touched, a truth was denied, or a part of you needs protection. Rage is not the problem, it is a signal. If you take nothing else away from this video, remember those words. Write them down if you feel called to, and remind yourself of them often. Every time you feel that rage rising, remember, not reaction, not from the head, but that rising. I want you to give yourself permission to ask yourself, what is this trying to protect? Often the trigger is not the wound. The real wound is older. And when we even react, then often it's from the age or timeline that initial wounding occurred, not to the situation at hand. The real wound is normally quieter, it's buried, and rage is the flare gun to bring your attention back to it, but normally we do not get there. Rage shows you where your sovereignty has been compromised, often years before the moment you are reacting to. So when you feel it rise, just know your body is not betraying you, it is trying to protect you. Rage is an energy, raw, potent, and transformative. Rage is one of the most electrically charged emotional states that a human can generate. It heightens awareness, floods the system with power, sharpens intuition, and reveals what truly matters. Most people waste this energy by exploding outwards or collapsing inwards and allowing it to boil or dissipate. Reaction versus suppression. And from an occultist perspective, these are both huge untapped potential energy sources. When you learn to hold it, to listen to it, to sit with it, and you learn, importantly, how to redirect it and channel it, rage does become a force for creation and not destruction. And if you haven't experienced this yourself through occult work, it can be a little harder to understand why rage is such a powerful energy source. And when it's used ritualistically, it's not for vengeance. It's not to get back at that person that has made you feel that rise of rage. No, it's actually used consciously. Even without the event, it just becomes that power source that you have done the hard work and training to be able to tap back into at any time without a trigger or external catalyst to cause that to rise. When you know what it's like to tap into that on demand, it can become a generator for positive and altruistic work. Rage is a descent into the self that you have buried. Just like in the poem, there is a version of you waiting deep within, the one who remembers your worth, who holds your boundaries, who carries your fire, and who refuses to be silenced. The part of you who remembers why you came here. Rage is the rope that pulls you down to meet them, not to drown you, but to reunite you. Sometimes it does it in a brutal way, not explosively projected at others as you may think. In my case, when I truly met my sacred rage, my head literally exploded. A moment of intense rage with reason became the unforgivable boundary that was crossed and the primal scream from deep within that could no longer be suppressed. The way this came out was like a pressure cooker until my rage found a weakness in the blood vessels in my cerebellum and the blood-curdling rush that turned my world upside down, instigated my cosmic course correction. More on this another time. And though it was life-changing, doesn't even begin to cover it, I still stand by it was the best thing that has happened to me. But I hope you learn to meet your rage before it needs to be so dramatically noticed. Conscious rage is a spiritual technology. When you stop reacting impulsively and start responding intentionally, rage, even if it's dialed down to look more like anger or frustration, but now we know the difference, this can become a compass, a teacher, a ritual tool, a source of power, a catalyst for change, and a doorway into shadow integration. It's not about being angry. It's about being awake. It's about being authentic and honoring your sovereignty. A moment of deeply understanding your rage as a guide and to what it is actually trying to bring your attention to is worth any you can spend projecting it at what feels like the problem. And without the distance to witness your sacred rage, non-judgmentally, you will miss its teachings every time. The body knows before the mind does. Rage is physical. It's somatic. It's instinctual. The body acts before your thoughts catch up. Learn to go with it instead of fighting it. Witness it. I still am talking about conscious response, not reaction. But remember, the mind is where anger comes from. And that's not what we're talking about. Again, unlike anger being a more head reaction in origin, with rage, you want to look for things like a tightening of the chest, heat rising up. Again, that upwards trajectory that we've spoken about. Your pulse will quicken and you will either have a severe need to speak or to withdraw. Talk about hedging your bets both ways, but the distance in between the rage and the want to react is what you're paying attention to there. These are not signs of failure. These are signs of truth. Your body is saying something here matters. When was the last time you truly stopped to dig deeper on that? Transmutation is the witch's fire. There are 3 paths that people tend to take with anger, and only one of them leads to power. Most people suppress it and it festers. It sinks into their body like sediment, toxic, heavy, and unspoken. Physiologically, it can become things like migraines and stomach ulcers. It can also build resentment and lead to exhaustion, disassociation, and numbness. Suppression is self-abandonment dressed as being the bigger person. Others explode with it, and it harms. It scorches everything: relationships, trust, self-worth. It burns fast, leaves ash, and teaches nothing. Explosion is the nervous system in freefall, not the soul in its truth. But then there is the 3rd path, transformation, which of course we know as transmutation. This is the path of sovereignty. It's the path of the witch, the priestess, the shadow walker, the one who knows how to hold fire without it burning down the village. Transmutation is not about controlling your anger. It is about alchemizing it. It is the moment you feel that heat rise in your body, and instead of collapsing with it or detonating it, you think, there you are. What are you here to show me? And this is where the magic happens, because it's not just an emotion. It is a raw power source. It is a voltage, and it is spellcraft waiting to be directed. When you transmute your rage, you feel it fully without letting it hijack you. You listen to the boundary it is pointing to. You extract the energy from the trigger and you redirect that energy towards something that actually matters, and use that fire instead of being consumed by it. This is the witch's way. This is embodiment, integration, and it is ancient. Transmutation sounds mystical, but it is deeply physical. Your breath slows the wildfire. Your awareness separates the signal from the story. Your spine straightens as your power returns back to you. Your intuition sharpens and your energy rises like a tide you can steer. And suddenly, the thing that once overwhelmed you becomes the very force that fuels your clarity, your boundaries, your rituals, your art, and your voice. This is why sacred rage is something not to fear, but to learn to wield. Because when you learn to transmute it, you stop leaking power, you stop giving your energy away to people who do not deserve it, you stop abandoning yourself to keep the peace, you stop mistaking your silence for being spiritual, and you stop shrinking to seem strong. You become sovereign. You become the one who can walk in the dark and not lose themselves. The one who can feel the fire and not flinch. And if you are serious about doing any occult work, that is important more than I can express. Because when you become the one that can take raw, unfiltered emotions and turn them into something real, useful, beautiful, transformative, that is real magic. That is becoming the spell. Transmutation is not about being calm. It is about being conscious. It is about not being passive, but being precise. It is not about being above your rage, but being in a relationship with it. Because sacred rage is not here to ruin your life. It is here to rebuild it. It is here to show you where you have been silent, where you have acted small, where you have tolerated too much, where you have betrayed yourself, where your boundaries have needed teeth, where your truth has needed a voice. and where your power has been waiting. Transmutation is the moment that you stop running from the fire and start walking with it. Once you've mastered this step, and mark my words, it is not easy, but with consistency, awareness, and aligned action, you will be able to refine it. And then you can move on to tapping into it as an energy stream that is available to you always, not just when someone pisses you off, when a situation arises to strength test your resilience. And I can help you with that step when you are ready. Let's take a step back in our focus and put our bigger picture lenses on. We've talked about something big that is happening in the collective right now. And if you are energetically sensitive, a fellow occultist, or attuned to the unseen currents, you can feel it in your bones. There is a surge rising. Sacred rage has woken up. Not the reactive kind, but ancient, intelligent, world-shifting kind that rises when humanity has had enough. It has reached a breaking point where the old structures cannot hold it. Across the world, people are feeling it as that tightening in their chests, as the no more, as their this is not it, as someone saying, I cannot stay silent, as the crowd chanting, this has to change. This isn't random. This isn't an accident. This is divinely guided and archetypal. In occult terms, collective sacred rage is threshold energy, a force that emerges whenever an old cycle is collapsing, demanding a new one to be reborn. It rises when the truth has been ignored for too long. It rises when injustice has become too loud to bypass. It rises when the collective shadow can no longer be denied. And yes, there are systems, narratives, and fear-based mongering trying to suppress it, distort it, and control the narrative, trying to shape it and to keep you distracted by all of the seemingly horrible things happening in the world right now. But that has always been the way of things. When a powerful frequency rises, the earth shakes. And here's the thing us witches have always known. Rage is stronger. Rage is older. Rage is a catalyst. It is the fire that cracks the shell and the storm that clears the field. The force that says enough. Something new must emerge. The moment in our timeline where global tensions, emotional pressure, and collective heat are not a mistake, but they are a summoning. And this is why sacred rage is arising, not to burn the world down, but to burn away what no longer serves it. And if you are feeling it too, you are not too much. You are not broken. You are not failing on your spiritual path. You are responding to the collective initiation. And this video is your invitation to step into that consciously. Before we move on to our reflection exercise and the closing of this video, there is something I am being called to speak about briefly, but with precision, because not everybody realizes this, and it deserves special acknowledgement. When we think of rage, we think of two general places in the body. We think of the throat or mouth as how we express it, and we think of the belly as the fire and where it rises from. Understandable. Energetically speaking, these are two major energy nexus points or chakras in the body that carry enormous voltage when activated. But what most people overlook is the direct and intimate, ancient connection between the throat chakra or Vishuddi and the root and womb complex, or Muladhara and Svadhisthana. These centers are not separate. None of the chakras are really. As I said in my last video, the chakra system of the body is a closed loop system. They all depend on and are affected by each other one. But this very specific grouping that I have mentioned between the throat and womb complex is a sacred alignment. This is a channel. It is a current. It is the serpent line of truth and power that runs from the base of your body to your voice. And right now, collectively, this axis is lighting up. And here's why that matters. Your womb, whether physically or energetically, is a seat of instinct, creation, boundaries, and raw primal knowing. Your throat is the seat of truth, expression, and sovereignty. When the womb is silenced, the throat closes. When the throat is suppressed, the womb contracts. When the root feels unsafe, the voice becomes shaky. And when the voice is denied, the root becomes unstable. This is why so many people feel rage rise from their belly, but nothing comes out of the mouth. Or why they feel the urge to scream, but the body shuts down instead. It is not weakness. It is energetic disconnection. Sacred rage is trying to move through a channel that has been conditioned to stay silent. And that is exactly why this moment in history feels so intense. The collective womb, the root of humanity, is contracting. It's pulsing, demanding truth. The collective throat is trying to catch up. And this is why people are feeling pressure and tightness in their chest, in their ribs, stabbing pains in their heart, heat in their belly, shaking of their legs, the urge to cry, scream, and speak words they didn't even know they held within them. It is the sense of, I cannot take this anymore. This is not dysfunction. This is activation. When sacred rage rises, it travels from the womb to the throat, from instinct to expression, from boundary to voice, from this is not okay to I will not stay silent. This is the pathway of power. This is the energetic autonomy of sovereignty. And when these two centers reconnect, either personally or collectively, as we are heading, when the womb and throat finally speak the same language, something extraordinary happens. Your no becomes undeniable. Your yes becomes embodied. Your truth becomes unshakable. Your boundary becomes instinctive. Your voice becomes spell. And your rage becomes a force of creation. And this is why sacred rage feels so physical. It's not emotional. It's energy trying to move, trying to shift, trying to rise. And that rising of energy goes hand in hand with the collective awakening that is happening, the rising of energy. They can't be separated. When you let this energy move consciously, when you let the womb speak through the throat, not in anger, you transmute it. You alchemize it, and you become it. Not the chaos, but you become clarity. And the frequencies around you cannot help but try to match that, or be expelled by it. So this is the part that not many people will talk about, but in small circles we know about it. as does anybody who has ever screamed from the depths of their body. The womb and throat are one channel, and sacred rage is the fire that connects them. And before we move on, I need to acknowledge something important. When I speak about the womb, I'm not excluding anybody. This isn't about biology, it's archetypal. Every one of us, regardless of gender or anatomy, carries both the masculine and feminine dimensions within them. There are 3 main channels that come from your root area, being the Ida, or feminine, the Pingala, or masculine, and Shushuma, the central channel. Almost everybody will alternate roughly every 11 minutes, no coincidences there, between the masculine and feminine channels. It's only those who have taken a very deep spiritual journey and done a lot of work that are able to maintain the merging of those channels into their central channel after a full Kundalini rising. And that's not something for this video, but everybody, no exceptions, needs both of these channels to be balanced and dance together as one for that energy to be sustained for that rise. We all have a root. We all have a throat. We all have a place where instinct meets expression, and every single person in the collective is feeling this activation on some level. But for those of you who do carry a physical womb, there is an additional layer to this video for you. This is portal energy. It is very intentional, regardless of if you identify with it or not. The womb is ancient circuitry that is tied directly to the collective field. Womb bearers are literally thresholds, conduits, and cauldrons of transformation. It is an honor. And right now, the portal is pulsing. And it's also why we are seeing such a rise in the call to the darker goddesses, the shadow feminine, the primal mothers of the crossroads. As a Hecatane witch myself, I feel this movement in my bones, and I couldn't be prouder. This isn't random, and this isn't aesthetic. When you hear that call, nobody can rewrite that part of your experience. This dark feminine rising, this is the I've had enough now, mama's coming to clean house type energy and frequency that has swept through all the eras of history when humanity reaches a breaking point and change is to be ushered in. It's the force that cuts cords, collapses illusions, and demands truth. It is the energy that brings sustainable change, not temporary comfort. And that power is bigger than gender. It is bigger than identity, bigger than any single person. It is a collective correction, a cosmic recalibration. This is the current we are all standing in, and it is the fire that is spreading through the world right now. This sacred rage is not personal. It is evolutionary. Now that this channel is awake in you, root to throat, instinct to expression, let's step through that portal to its revealing. These questions aren't for your mind. They are for the part of you that remembers. This is a descent into your own depths. Now I want you to take another deep breath and remember, these questions are not for your mind. These are for your bones and for your shadow. These are for your buried self. Let them land where they are meant to. I will leave them in the comments below so you can sit with them in your own time. 1. Where have I felt myself unravel? And did I fight it or follow it? 2. What parts of me have been buried for the sake of survival, acceptance, or peacekeeping? 3. What have I mistaken for weakness that might actually be power I have not learned to hold yet? 4. Have I heard an internal no that was louder than any external yes? 5. What does sacred rage feel like in my body, and what has it tried to protect? 6. Is there a version of me I left behind, and would I recognize them if they surfaced today? 7. What beliefs have been stitched into my skin that are no longer mine to carry? 8. What would it mean to be witnessed in the dark without needing to explain it away? 9. When did I last feel the presence of something ancient, watching, guiding, or remembering me? 10. What part of me has been spinning in silence, waiting to be heard? 11. Can I begin again, not from light, but from what I've carried through the dark? 12. What is the cost of coming home to myself, and am I willing to pay it? 13. What parts of me have I buried, and what would it take to unearth them? 14. Can you identify a moment when you felt the pull of a deeper and perhaps unsettling truth? 15. How do you perceive the balance between sacredness and volatility in your own journey? Let these questions unravel you gently. Let them guide you deeper. Let them show you what waits in the dark. Please give yourself a few moments to sit with them and see what comes up. Gently and non-judgmentally witness your own sacred rage, the one often buried so deep in your depths it can be hard to hear. It might help to have a pen and paper ready to write things down. That might be keywords, a verbal dump, lots of unexpected feelings, got big angry scribbles all over the paper. It doesn't matter. Let it out. Do not judge it. Just give it a safe place. If you've enjoyed this video, although it may have been heavy at times, thank you for investing the time in yourself to go on this journey with me. And I highly recommend that you check out my other spoken word video. That Me Being Witchy Me is a multi-layered ritual text disguised as a poem called Invocation of the Artist. And it honors the gift of darkness as a source of creation. And it is also on my YouTube channel and over on the Awaken Power website, where you can also find posts about harnessing your anger consciously, and the post that inspired this video called What Doesn't Break You Makes You Sovereign, all of which I will leave links to in the description. As we come to the end of our time together today, I want you to remember that sacred rage is the fire that reveals you. If you are interested in learning more witchy ways to channel this powerful energy source into your ritual work, or learn techniques of mastering the transmutation of something powerful, primal, raw, and at times volatile into a very tangible power source, then I've got your back. reach out to me and we can do some occult deep dives together. And I want you to try and remember that although at times this can feel heavy, this fire is not here to punish you. It is here to wake you up, to shake loose the lies you were taught to swallow, to burn away the versions of you that were built from survival instead of truth, and to return you back to the center of your own knowing. You were never meant to fear rage. You were meant to understand it, to listen to it, to learn from it, to harness it with precision, to integrate its teachings, and to rise from it. And when you honor that fire, when you stop suppressing it or exploding with it, when you transmute it, you heal, you become sovereign, you become one who can walk into the dark and not lose themselves. The one who cannot be consumed by fire. The one who can take the raw, unfiltered truths of their emotions and turn it into something powerful, positive, transformative. This is return, not to who you were, but to who you were always meant to be. What doesn't break you makes you sovereign. And just remember, Hecate, Kali, Lilith, and the Dark Mothers are all waiting to embrace you. Blessed be.